Well, it is 24 degrees Celsius in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily, your daily dose of sunshine. I'm Maokbe Ogun Yusuf. And we're tracking a number of news events for you, particularly in the Federal Capital Territory. We do know that today, the 23rd day, I beg your pardon, the 23rd day of October, Nnamdi Kanu is set to open his defense at the Federal High Court before Justice James Omotosho today. Our correspondents are already on the ground. We understand that security is already tight around the area surrounding the Federal Capital Territory. I do know that the axis along Ahmadu Bello Way and Shehu Shagari Way are usually cordoned off to traffic when this trial is supposed to, start, or whenever it is underway. So to this morning is no different. We certainly will be keeping tabs with our correspondent who has already told us that security is tight, and the trial is set to start at the defense is set to open today at 9 a.m. on the dot. So any moment now, we should be getting some feedback as to what precisely is happening in court. But yes, Nnamdi Kanu has confirmed that he will be opening his defense today, regardless of whatever has happened during the week. He's called a number of witnesses. We understand that he's calling about 23 witnesses. They include the former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. He's also called some other very prominent names. He's called former Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai. He's also called the current Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, as well as the current Minister of Works, Engineer Dave Umahi. Now, how that is going to go is unclear, but we understand he's also asking for a period of about 9 months, 90-day period in which time to conclude his defense. So he's asking for 3 months, in essence, to be able to run through his defense. But we'll bring you a timeline of what his ordeal has been like. He was arrested on the 14th of October in 2015. So this has been on for a period of 10 years now, if you to look at 2015 to 2025. And right now we're in the month of October. He was arrested by the Department of State Services in Lagos on charges including terrorism and treasonable felony. He was arraigned before an Abuja magistrate court on charges of criminal conspiracy, intimidation, and membership in an unlawful society. His case was later transferred to the Federal High Court for treasonable felony. Don't forget that IPOB, the organization which Nnamdi Kanu leads, was proscribed by the administration of Muhammadu Buhari. You also have that in 2017, a Federal High Court in Abuja granted him bail on health grounds, requiring 100 million naira bond and imposing strict conditions such as refraining from interviews and public gatherings. He fulfilled his bail conditions and was released from Kuje prison. Some reports note that the release was completed between April 28 and 2029. And in August 2017, the federal government filed a motion seeking to revoke his bail, citing alleged violations of the court's conditions. In September that same year, the Nigerian military conducted an operation at his home in Umuahia, where he went missing. His lawyers claimed that he fled for safety, while the government accused him of jumping bail. Well, in 2022, February 2022, the Kenyan government filed an affidavit confirming that Kanu entered Kenya on May 12, 2021 as a British citizen and that there was no official record of his departure. This strengthened claims that he was unlawfully renditioned to Nigeria. Kenyan High Court ruled that Kanu's arrest and transfer from Kenya to Nigeria in 2021 were unlawful and violated his fundamental human rights. The court awarded him damages, while the judgment was delivered on the 24th of June and was widely reported as the official date of the ruling's release. Well, In December 15, 2023, the Supreme Court of Nigeria overturned a Court of Appeal judgment that had acquitted him and struck out terrorism-related charges. The Apex Court reinstated the charges and ordered his trial to continue. That is the basis upon which the federal government has continued the trial of Nnamdi Kanu. Don't forget that Nnamdi Kanu's lawyers have always argued that a Court of Appeal, let him go, but that judgment was never fulfilled. Well, it does appear that the Supreme Court overturned that appeal and asked him to continue to face trial. Well, in 2025 this year, the Federal High Court in Abuja ordered that Mr. Kanu be brought to court for his resumed trial on February 10, confirming that he remained in DSS custody since his rendition in 2021. And the trial has since then resumed before Justice James Omotosho at the Federal High Court in Abuja. Mr. Kanu was rearraigned on 7 terrorism-related counts and pleaded not guilty. In September this year, the court advanced the date for hearing Kanu's application seeking release or improved medical access to September 26 in response to his concerns about his health. And in October 16 this year, just last week, the NMA filed a report certifying Mr. Kanu as medically fit. The court denied his request for a transfer to a hospital, adjourned proceedings to October 23 for the defense to open, and set October 30 as the deadline for the defense to close. Trial sessions have been scheduled for October 23, that's today, October 27, that will be Monday, 28, 29, and 30. Well, Mr. Kanu remains in custody. His trial is ongoing. And of course, you know that this week, there were public demonstrations calling for his release amid claims of political motivation behind his prolonged detention. So we certainly will keep tabs on that matter for you, and we'll bring you developments as we hear them from the court, especially with regards to his defense opening today. Well, we have some good news to report. They say news sometimes is never good, but when you put good in front of it, perhaps it shows the nature. Yesterday, we understand that ASU, that's the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities, there's no Nigerian there, but yes, it is Nigerian universities now. They have called off their 2-week warning strike. It was supposed to end on Monday, but they have called it off in good faith, bearing in mind that the National Assembly intervened, and they say that they've given the federal government 1 month to meet their demands. Otherwise, they will call on the strike or they'll resume the strike without any notice. But in the meantime, they have called off their 2-week warning strike, which was due to expire on Monday. And this is a sign of good faith, giving the federal government 1 month to attend to their demands. And something very interesting, that is what is happening with ASU. On the other hand, still in the National Assembly, something quite interesting is going on with INEC reforms. And this time around, the Senate is seeking for mandatory transmission of mandatory electronic transmission of results by INEC. And they also want the burden of proof to shift from the litigant to INEC. Before now, the burden of proof had been on the litigant to show that INEC did not conduct the elections properly. I remember in my early days, I thought it was quite odd. But, lawyers have always maintained that whoever asserts must prove. But right now, the Senate, in this latest batch of electoral reforms, is seeking that the burden of proof moves from the litigant to INEC. It's a development we certainly will be watching, and we want you to be alert as to this particular development. It's just in the case, it's still in the stages of proposal from the Senate. We will see how it fares through the course of the development of this legislation and whether it finally makes it to public hearing. But these are the matters that we bring before you this morning. It's some of the things that we're looking at preliminary, but the main thing we're looking at this morning is the issue of safety, especially with regards to the loss of lives in the latest accident, the latest tanker accident that happened in Essa community in Niger State. We'll be speaking with the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Mr. Lanre Issa Onilu, whose agency has done some substantial work trying to alert and educate people as to the dangers and hazards of, trying to scoop fuel whenever it is a tanker capsizes. What more needs to be done? These are some of the questions we'll be asking in just a moment. Please stay with us.
It's a sad day for residents of Essa community in Kacha local government area of Niger State as a petrol-laden tanker exploded in the area. The disaster led to the death of residents who had gathered there to scoop petroleum product from the falling tanker. The incident occurred on the Bida-Badegi-Agei highway, which residents say have been in a bad state for several years.
Immediately the tanker fall, almost and exploit, almost 27 people died instantly. More than 35 are seriously be injured. No day is count out that we cannot have a dead claimed by our road. And this road we expand and reconstructed by Shagari's administration. But after that, millions of naira have been destroyed by this busy road. Lots have been claimed, especially youth, that the nation depends.
The moment the vehicle fell down, they started coming out from the village with their buckets, their jerrycans and other packing materials to pack the fuel. So, unfortunately, the tanker driver decided to set the vehicle on fire. One of the black marketers tried to kind of intervene. The man still rejected. From there, they started holding each other. Before you know, the tanker driver set the fire on the vehicle. Then many people were under the vehicle already. They started getting burned. Some were kind of running to the bush. In fact, many casualties were recovered from the bush.
According to the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, 42 persons died, including women and children. More than 60 others, including 20 males, 7 females, and 7 children, sustained varying degrees of burns. Most of them are receiving treatment at the public and private hospital in the area.
This petroleum tanker explosion was caused as a result of bad road coupled with the nature of our youth. Whenever tanker had an accident, they will just come around and start scooping the fuel. And as a result of that, the driver who is also driving the tanker feel it is not, he's not happy. And then he started having issue with the youth that is scooping the fuel here. And the whole thing turned into flame. That caused several lives lost. About 39 people lost their lives. 60 were seriously injured. Some of these seriously injured were evacuated to Federal Medical Center, Bida. Some were in Eastern community who are receiving treatment.
Emergency responders, including the Nigerian Police Force, the Department of State Services, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, the Federal Safety Corps, joined the Niger State Emergency Management Agency and community volunteers to conduct rescue operation and maintain order.
Well, that's the matter that we're taking a look at. Just to update you that we now understand that at least 42 people have lost their lives in that very tragic incident, and 60 people still battling to, keep their lives in the Federal Medical Center in Bida. Well, I did tell you earlier that Mr. Lanre Issa Onilu, who is the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, joins us now. It's good to have you in our studios this morning. I know that this must be pretty frustrating for you, given the amount of work that the NOA has been, the campaign that you've embarked upon, trying to let people know the dangers associated with going near a tanker that has, I'm using capsized, but it has turned over. In this situation, it does appear that the more you say it, it doesn't seem that the message is sinking in.
Yeah, well, it's just as you said, it's very frustrating. But we saw it coming. Following the incident that happened at Diko, same Niger State, some months ago, where several people died for the same reason. The president gave us a marching order, to conduct a nationwide sensitization. We flagged off in that local government, and brought stakeholders together. The community leaders, the religious leaders, the police, the civil defense, the youth leader, the women, everybody. And our findings, show clearly that sensitization alone and enlightenment won't solve this problem. They are quite aware of the danger.
Sensitization and enlightenment alone would not solve it?
No, would not.
So what needs to be done?
Okay, so we after we did that, because we got to know that the Diko case, the police arrived almost 20 minutes before the fire, and tried to prevent the people of that community from approaching the product. But they chased the security personnel. They chased them away. And barely 10 minutes after they chased them away, the explosion occurred. So a failure of leadership at the community level, because the community leaders did not provide the support that the personnel, the security personnel required. If they had done that, that Diko would not have happened. And I'm sure this particular one, you will find out that it is the whole of the community issue. So when we discovered that, we went to Pengasan. We sat with them.
Pengasan or Nupeng?
Sorry, Nupeng in Lagos. Yeah. So we sat with Nupeng in Lagos at the headquarters. And they gave us a litany, of reasons why things that needed to be done. And I'm aware that at the level of the downstream petroleum the agency, there's this stakeholders again that we are involved also. And all sorts of regulations have been put forward to ensure that this is curbed. So you can say bad road. We all know the bad spot. All those have been defined where this could happen. It's documented. But if there is a spillage, why do you go near it when you know the risk involved? It happened in Jesse, with over 1,000 people perished. It happened in Diko just recently. It shouldn't happen again. But that's why we felt, it's about our values in this country. It's about our values. I'll give you something that happened in Japan just last week. For 38 hours, the tolling systems in Japan collapsed. So vehicles were moving without having to pay at the toll gates. And that lasted for 38 hours. And within that period, 24,000 drivers, drove through toll gates that they didn't need to pay. Immediately, the tolling system was restored. Without any prompting from anybody, all of them went back and paid their dues. Voluntarily, nobody was asking them to pay. They went back to pay. That's what value does to people. Accountability. So people hold themselves accountable. They don't wait for anybody to hold them accountable. So it's about values. And we're not like this. So we could see over the decades how our values have eroded. Otherwise, parents would ask their children, why do you want to take what belongs to another person? Because even that fuel, that petroleum, the PMS that spilled, belongs to somebody's investment. So the act of even taking it is theft. It's criminal. It's something that you can be prosecuted for taking what does not belong to you. So you see parents in the past ensuring that their children would not even attempt to go near it. If it were possible for you to salvage that product, it will be for the purpose of assisting the owner to salvage some of his product, not to want to take advantage. But we are now in a country where there will be accidents. Now people are dying and they are picking their pockets, not making any attempt to save lives. So it's beyond just tanker falling and people going near it. It's a whole of society issue that has to do with the issue of value orientation. And that's why we are not trying to approach value orientation from the angle of sloganeering and throwing mantra around. It's deep-seated. And so and that's why we had to take the whole of a society together in this. And it is very important in our Nigerian Identity Project, this national value thing that we are pushing forward. Now we realize that part of the challenge we have had in this country is that we have always defined leadership narrowly. When we say leadership failure, people immediately think of political leadership. But as we have seen, leadership broadly defined includes even the family unit, includes the community, it includes associations, societies, it includes the leadership in channels, television. It includes the driver in the commercial bus, who is the leader as at that period. So leadership at all levels, all cadence of leadership must be responsible. Take what happened in Diko, as I have said. Okay, so the police arrived, the civil defense arrived to ensure that nobody went near the product. That is the representative of political leadership. They responded, but the community leadership failed. So until we see leadership beyond just people who are in political offices, and we identify that everybody who has a supervisory role must take responsibility and must do the right thing. And that is the definition, that we are trying to, push forward to ensure that we are all accountable at every level. Religious leaders must be accountable. You can't go to church or mosque and give, encourage your people to hate other people or incite them to violence, and then you say political leadership failure. No, that is religious leadership failure. So that is the way we must approach this.
Values is a big and very deep thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of Nigerians will argue that political leadership has a lot to do, in showing the values that the country treasures.
Absolutely.
In recent times, I'm sure that you're no stranger to the controversy that has now happened with the pardons that were granted by the president.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said, look, it bordered very strongly on what a society rewards. Have you been able to have this conversation with political leadership to say, you have to help our work? Because if the message is sent from political leadership, perhaps it will begin to trickle down to different cadres of society that things are really about to change.
You are very correct. And if you look at the Nigerian Identity Project, the National Value Charter, that's why it has two components. It has the leadership at the political level being brought to the table. All that we have heard in the past is the citizen must do this, they must make sacrifice, they must, be patriotic, without a corresponding, demonstration of those values, on the side of political leadership. And that's why we have the two components to the values, the value charter. So you are very correct that it is important that the political leadership take the lead, but without excluding leadership at every other level. Everybody must key into it. I just gave you the example of Japan. They have a strong value system, which they have promoted over the years. So everybody understands what it means to be a Japanese, and you don't want to be left out. So whether you now find yourself in political leadership, in religious leadership position, or traditional, wherever you find yourself, you know what you need to do. And if you are just an ordinary citizen, you know what you need to do. And that is what we need to do in this country. Political leadership must take the lead, but every level of leadership is as important. The pardon that you gave example, yeah, you see, chain of command in government is so broad, and you always rely on your lieutenant, your assistant, to do their bit. And so when they bring it before you, you expect that the right thing has been done. It is not your duty to go, for instance, like the president had to go and study each case to see the circumstance around each person. That is the responsibility of some other people, and they are trusted to do that. But we must give credit to this government. It has demonstrated over time that it is not afraid anytime it notices something wrong has been done. Immediately it will say, no, stop, we have made a mistake. Let's go back and look at this. So there's no any ego in this. It's about being accountable. So if we make a mistake, we must admit it and address it immediately.
So you do believe that a mistake has been made?
Oh, of course. If it had not been made, the government, has said that clearly, and that's why it's being reviewed, and that is credit to government to say, okay, we are human, we can make mistake. Our advisors can give us wrong advice sometimes, or even they also can make mistake.
Yeah, but consequences. Because for those kind of grievous, egregious mistakes to be made in a country where your agency, I imagine that in recent times, the campaign you have been doing is not with saliva. You certainly would have been pumping a lot of effort, energy, money into this, and you are hoping that it would actually have an effect. But when things like this happen, they erode months, years, perhaps, of work that you're doing. Yeah. So they have consequences, not just on what has happened, not just in terms of embarrassing the government, but in terms of what the society believes or what it thinks. So don't you think that, yes, well, they have accepted that there's going to be a review or a mistake has been made, perhaps. There also needs to be consequences, an inquiry, perhaps, down the line as to what exactly had gone wrong.
Absolutely. I agree with that. We can't paper over issues like this. When they happen, we must identify what went wrong and who was responsible. And those are the examples that the citizens will see and say, yes, justice system is working. There's rule of law, there's accountability, and there's transparency in what we are doing. Yes, these are subliminal communication. Things that you do that goes into people's consciousness, and they begin to see that's why we always say patriotism cannot be enforced. Neither can you legislate it. You have to motivate it. And to motivate patriotism, you have to give examples. You have to demonstrate that things are working, and we are all in it together, and not just one side being asked to do certain things and the other side is not coming forward. But we also know that government is very big, and change, as constant as it is, it's also the most difficult thing to achieve. So, especially when it involves human. So it takes a long time for people to begin to key into this. And that's why we said we don't just going to create a value system in terms of document. We must also create institutions to nurture people. These institutions would grow you and myself as citizens who understand what is required of us. So that when we are not doing the right thing, we can self-appraise, because there are parameters to do that. So as we have today, there are no clear parameters. When you say there are global standards for what is right, but I can also tell you that it is contextual, from society to society. If you speak of freedom in Russia, does not mean the same thing as freedom in America. It does not mean the same thing as freedom in China. Neither does it mean the same thing as freedom in Nigeria. So you must define what these principles mean in your country. And every citizen must understand it and know what is justice, what is freedom, what is democracy, what is meritocracy. All this duty of care, all of these are important that we are clear about it. And we can only get to understand and inculcate those things if there are institutions created to nurture people. So in the countries where this have happened, they have institutions to nurture citizens. I do give example that is like having the two popular religions, Islam and Christianity, and you don't have the Bible, you don't have the Quran, where are going to get the guidance? Are they going to get the guidance from? So the Bible and the Quran exist to give guidance. But even when you have the Bible and the Quran, for those two religions, imagine when you don't have the churches and the mosque. Those are the institutions to nurture people, despite that you have the document. You know, so, and that's why we recommended 7 institutions of nurturing to the Federal Executive Council last year. And everything was approved. One of which is the introduction of the citizenship study in our schools, all the way from primary school to the university, as compulsory subject. And just last month, the Federal Ministry of Education announced the introduction of heritage and citizenship as a subject, up from primary school to secondary school, SS3. Now it is compulsory. So and in that you have the civic education, you have values, you have history, you have heritage, everything rolled into that as compulsory subjects. So if you go to Nigerian schools now, you would study what it means to be a Nigerian. What are the expectations, what are the attributes that you must have? And currently, we are also in discussion with the Board of Polytechnic and Colleges of Education at that level, and NUC, to also incorporate that into the curriculum. That is just one of the 7 institutions, education.
Do you see the NOA, though, evolving to some sort of watchdog as well? That when certain things are done, or when some government agencies are not living up to, or maybe something scandalous has happened, or is about to happen, or you just get wind of something that you know will have the opposite effect on the work that you have been doing in recent times. Do you ever see the NOA, having to raise the alarm, to say this is not in tandem with what it means to be a Nigerian and the Nigeria that we are trying to build with the work we're doing? Okay, so we are not going to become a watchdog. It's already embedded in the act that set up the NOA, and we are doing a lot of that. Some things that come to the public, the public see, but a lot happen that don't come to the public. For instance, we don't just disseminate government information. We also generate feedback. So we send feedback in terms of feedback from all the local government, because we have offices in all the 774 local government. So we generate feedback on a continuous basis. This gets to the president. It gets to key government functionaries from the people. These are what they are saying in every corner of the community. And when we notice that a particular agency has done something that should not be done, we write a letter, giving all the details, and we send to that agency for them to do the right thing. We do for individual also. I was going to ask if you, for an example. Okay, so I'll give you 2 examples quickly. Okay. One, early this year, a monarch in Ogun State who used Nigerian notes and made it a garland, and was having a birthday and hung that on the neck of a musician. Nigerian notes. That was an abuse of Naira. We wrote him that your role in the society as a monarch, places on your shoulder that responsibility to show example. This is not good. He did a press conference to apologize. It didn't stop at that. The Ogun State Traditional Council suspended him for 3 months. Recently also, and I'm sure that person was invited by China following our effort, there's a guy that does this advert, a motor dealer. I enjoy what he does. I love the way, the energy is. But we saw that in the process of doing that, without being deliberate about it, or knowingly to him, he was denigrating a particular section of the people of this country. That is the civil servant. And we wrote him a letter to say, no, please, don't put pressure on them that until they have a particular car, until they build a particular house, they are not human beings. So he was invited by several media houses where he gave an account. He apologized. So we do a lot of this quietly. And when you also do the writing, we write to encourage you. A woman in Maiduguri just recently saw some money, a cleaner, a street, cleaner, a road cleaner. She took the money, about 4.7 or 4.8 million, and returned it. So we sent our people to her.
to congratulate her. I gave her a letter, and now we are even trying to, because we don't give cash. So we are buying, we discussed with her, so we are getting her a small business that can give her some support so that she knows that, what she has done, government is happy, Nigeria is happy about it. And other people who see it also see that example. So we do a lot of that. But it's not everything that comes on TV or radio. So that's how we've been working.
Okay, so I know that that's not the only thing you do. You've also tried to raise awareness around our national emblems, the flag,
the symbols,
the symbols, the national anthem, how it should be sung, when it should be sung, how many stanzas, etc. Yeah. How is that penetrating? Is it working?
Yeah, it is. Surprisingly, the Nigerian children in schools are the first to hop on this. Within 2-3 months, across Nigeria, children in schools, they are enthusiastic about this. Yes, the youth, of course, there's some form of
my generation will be resistant
to that. So, but we are trying to tell them that it's nothing too serious. This new anthem. By the time you analyze the meaning, it speaks directly to who we are, more than the other one. And it is not just because we are reciting or singing it. It's for us to also understand the meaning and let it sink. It's part of the identity of a Nigerian. And so we must ensure that we understand it. So we received some school children at NOA last week. And by the time we sat with them, we were very impressed.
Okay.
The way they understand the meaning beyond even what some of us, they understand that though tribes and tongues differ, that in brotherhood, they know what that means. They know why our flag must be our symbol.
Yeah. And just talking about the flag, I want to talk about the flag very quickly because we're already out of time, as a matter of fact. It was October 1 recently, and interestingly, as October 1 was approaching, I saw that people started to sell flags on the street, and people wanted to buy. But then I was looking at it and I say, this is the flag NOA says we shouldn't, that is not our flag. I mean, it had the coat of arms in the middle. Are you still able to make progress with getting the real and original Nigerian flags on the streets for those who really want to buy?
Yes. Now, two things are happening. Even the people who are producing the flag in Nigeria, they don't know what is the correct flag. So we have to start with them.
Okay.
So we've been working with them to say this is the color code. It is not just any green. It is a specific kind of green. It is Emerald 2.0 green. That is our green. So we are working with those. We also want to certify people who are producing that we know are up to standard, so that everybody can know who to go
patronize,
to get the flag. But the corporates, the people that are mostly involved in this, are government institutions and private entities like the banks, the telecoms, the hotels. So we write all of these people. So such letter don't come to the public. We write and give all the specifications and say, this is what you need to do, this is how you're supposed to do. And even when we see a single person holding a wrong one, we stop and say, no, this is what get. So I always have flag in my car. So wherever I go to, even if it's hotel, I say, no, remove this. This is the correct one. Put it there.
Maybe you leave a few with us. As you leave. But we have to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on this particular campaign, which I believe will continue, even though you say it's not just about campaigning, that so much more needs to happen to get the message to the people. We have to thank you for coming on the program this morning. Mr. Lanre Issa Onilu is the Director General of the National Orientation Agency.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, we take a break at this time. When we come back, we will certainly be taking a look at other matters and bringing you updates on the current trial. He's taking on his defense today, Nnamdi Kanu, bringing you updates on that matter as it's developing in court. Please stay with us. Oh, yes, indeed. Mr. Laulu Akonde joins us now. He is the presenter of Inside Sources and also a former presidential aide. But just before we bring him on to take a look at some of the issues we have outlined earlier, we understand that the defense of Nnamdi Kanu at the Federal High Court is currently ongoing. Crew sent us some visuals from earlier on. We understand that Mr. Kanu says he will be representing himself as his own lawyer. Don't forget that Mr. Aloy Ejimako was arrested alongside Nnamdi Kanu's brother on Monday during the protest organized by the Take It Back movement. So this morning, Mr. Kanu says he'll be representing himself as his own lawyer, opening his defense in the ongoing terrorism trial against him. The development is after his lead counsel, Kanu Agabi, alongside other senior advocates in his legal team, withdrew their legal representation. Mr. Kanu also refused a lawyer to be provided to him by the court when trial judge Justice James Omotosho offered the same. So that's news we're getting out of the court this morning, that Nnamdi Kanu is representing himself. His lawyers have withdrawn, and we also know that one of them was also detained by the police. But these are visuals that were sent in this morning. These visuals are from the court of law. You know that cameras are not allowed in the court of law, so we cannot say these are live because they're not. In any case, a trial is underway. So this was prior to the trial resuming at the court. And we also understand that he wants to call 23 witnesses, amongst them the former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, SAN, as well as the current Minister of FCT, Wike, the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, and former Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai. Well, I don't know what you make of this, Mr. Akonde. I mean, 23 witnesses asking for a period of 90 days. Do you think, what do you think we should be expecting from your own estimation?
Well, I think it is clear that Mr. Kanu is not interested in pursuing this case.
Why do you say so?
Oh, clearly, because, you know, the behavior and the conduct of himself and his lawyers, you know, after they have said that we want a prompt trial, you know, and you have a judge who is clearly ready to do the right thing, and then this is what you are working out, you want to represent yourself, you know, that tells me that he's not interested in pursuing the case in court. He's interested in a political solution. And that does have a bit of credit here, you know, because of course we see some other things that are happening in this country. There are people who have behaved like Kanu, and their cases were settled in a political way. So I guess that is what he's more interested in. And my own argument.
That's speculation.
Yes, yeah. Actually, that's what I believe. Because if you look at the whole, you know, the trajectory of the case, part of the reason why it has taken this long is also because of some of these shenanigans on both sides, on the side of the government prosecuting him and on his own side, you know, changing lawyers back and forth, you know. So I think that we need to explore the political solution, not because I don't believe that Kanu should get his day in court, but clearly this matter is being drawn out, you know. And I think for the sake of our national cohesion, you know, we need to, you know, take another look at solving this matter politically. So if you have lawyers like Kanu Agabi, you know, senior advocate of Nigeria, respectable lawyer, you know, choosing to also walk out, then it is giving the whole case a very bad impression. Okay. You know, so I don't know how you know, government will deal with this, but it's clear to anybody that Kanu is interested in a political solution. They don't want to go forward with this case in court. That's my view. Well,
we'll see how that matter, you know, proceeds in court. I mean, there have been quite a number of developments in recent times. You saw the protest that happened on Monday and the measures by the government of the day to make sure that it didn't happen close to certain areas of the Federal Capital Territory. The police said they had an injunction, preventing protesters from getting to a particular area. People were very cautious. A lot of small businesses did not open on Monday. Civil servants could barely get to work because roads leading to the headquarters of Federal Civil were cordoned off. So, and some people say, look, this is also on the back of developments we've heard in recent times. It's been spoken in whispers about a coup that never took place. But we know that on October 1, for instance, the ceremonies that were supposed to have attended our independence Day celebrations didn't happen. A very strong reason wasn't given for it. But then we heard much later that, some people were arrested, some, soldiers were arrested in connection with something else. That's what the military authorities tell us. But the media, some sections of the media have reported quite authoritatively that they heard that these people were arrested in connection with the coup. What are we to make of some of this? Are there any connections here and there that you can draw?
Well, okay, let me quickly first make a point about the protest. I think the response of the federal government security agencies on Monday was an overkill. If you look at what happened and how they disrupted activities in the FCT, it was more a case of the government security agencies preventing people from going about their regular businesses, because look,
that's for those who came out, because as I did say, some people were also cautious. They didn't come out.
That's the point, because people were prevented. I mean, I was trying to get into Transcorp around 3 o'clock when this demonstration had dissipated completely, and there were still roadblocks all over the place. So I think that it was an overkill, and I think we still need to get some protocol. I think the police authorities, our security agencies, and civil society NGOs need to sit down and agree on a protocol for protest. It is done everywhere. We shouldn't be doing all this hide and seek. We should understand that people have a right to protest, without disturbing, the regular business of the day for people who don't want to protest. We need to have that conversation and have those protocols. Now, on the issue of the allegations around the coup, we have, like you said, we have serious news media, reporting that something is going on. Number two, the military itself has said that they are detaining senior officers, including, as we have been told, a brigadier general and others. About 16, some reports say 16, some say 20. Now, that doesn't happen regularly. So, people are entitled to some informed speculation. But what I want to say is that if it is true that there was an attempt to have a coup, then we must commend the military intelligence for nipping it in the bud, and we must commend the leadership of the military, for taking care of that. The second point that I would like to make is that those who are opposed to the Tinubu administration, or those who have differences with our current civilian leaders, they should go and fight them in the polls. We don't want a coup to be used to settle our political differences anymore. If you don't like what the president is doing, if you feel that he's going in a direction that is not in the interest of our country, don't do a coup. Don't go and support a coup. Don't clamor for a coup. Don't embrace a coup. Go to the polls. If you're a politician, go and defeat Tinubu at the polls. If you're a Nigerian, go and register to vote. This is how we ought to do it. We must raise our voices loud and clear against military incursion in politics.
Well, what do you make, though, of calls for transparency? Some people say, I saw the post of Bolaji Abdullahi, who is a member of the ADC, asking for, clarity on this, transparency on this, because they are afraid that this might be used to hunt down political opponents, so to speak.
Yeah, well, so I think also that it is useful if the military can give us more information and not try to deny some of the things. The military itself has said that we have arrested people. Yeah,
but they have come out vehemently to say that they never said there was a coup, or a coup attempt, that they arrested those people in connection with indiscipline and other military transgressions.
My whole issues with those reasons is that they are very weak. They don't sound strong enough to go and arrest a brigadier general because of that. It's very, very weak. And I think that our military people ought to do better than that in terms of the kind of information that you put out to the press. But I'm sure that what they are trying to do is they don't want to raise the tension. They don't want to create a credibility crisis for the current political leaders, because if you come out and say, yes, there has been a coup, that creates a credibility crisis for the president, for the governors, for all the civilian leaders that are elected. And like I said, we shouldn't, all of us as a people, we should make a very loud and clear position. No, no, no to coups.
Okay, well, the Senate is making sure that when we do go to the polls, that we are satisfied with the rules that guide the polls. They have recently said they're going to be looking at mandatory transmission of mandatory electronic transmission of results, and also that the burden of proof should move to INEC instead of the litigant. Do you think that will work?
Well, I am excited with the idea of electronic transmission because that was what Professor Yakubu promised us, and he couldn't deliver. And he didn't even have the courtesy to explain to us until he left what happened, just saying it's a glitch. So if we are moving in the direction of fixing that, to say that, look, when the election is held in a polling unit, it is electronically transmitted. That takes off the discretion of people who do all those things that we see, blotting out numbers, changing stuff, and it's a big deal. Now, this other issue of the burden of proof, lawyers are the ones that can explain better to us. But if it means that INEC should be able to defend what it has done, then it seems to be something that's also exciting.
Okay, we'll keep tabs on it. We have to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us as always. Mr. Laolu Akonde is the presenter of Channel Television's Inside Sources. You can catch it on Fridays and on Sundays as well. And he's also a former presidential aide. Thank you once more.
Thanks so much, Nnamdi.
Well, that's where we wrap it up on Sunrise Daily this beautiful Thursday morning. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm Maupe Ogunyusu. See you when I see you.